So welcome everyone to this week's edition of Conversations on American Democracy. It's good to see you all. I actually, again, sent out an email on Sunday, and inevitably too many things get in the way and too many things happen between Sunday and that. But let's talk just a second, because as Mark Twain said, when the legislature's in session, no person is in, every person is in jeopardy of his life and his liberty and his property. So we're all in trouble. The legislature should finish up its session on Friday, but now I believe we've hit the deadline, cannot. Why? Because one of the requirements is it has to pass a budget. And our wonderful representatives in Tallahassee can't agree on a budget either, so they have to extend the session, which means they can also consider some of these other bills, including SB, Senate Bill 1296, the Public Employees Relations Commission, which is going to ultimately put out of business all public sector unions, including teacher unions. Because to be certified, you have to have at least 50% of the people, the teachers in the school system, have to enroll in the union. Otherwise, the union cannot represent the teachers. The ultimate purpose is bargaining and to put unions out of business, because unions tend to vote Democrat, and the people in office are Republican. What will putting the unions out of business, what will teacher unions putting them out of business mean to our schools?
Can drive the salaries even lower. They're already low.
Yeah, and we already have a short.
And no one to turn to if there's no representation, if there's some action taken against them.
Yeah.
Lobbying for retirement benefits and all the rest of that type of thing.
That's exactly right. Just taking another right from us.
You know what? That's all they seem to do. That's it. Anyway, so the country and the Constitution were founded to restrain the government and give freedom to the people, but it seems that's turned on its head. It's now to restrain the people and give freedom to the government. Is it possible that our legislators could pass a law to make us, as a group, considered as domestic terrorists?
Possible.
Yeah,
Pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close. That's Senate Bill 1632. They can regard us as inconsistent with American principles and call us a domestic terrorist organization.
Having a copying machine is one of the pieces of evidence that they use to show that you are creating anti-American literature and distributing it. So if you have a group like this that gets together and talks about democracy, and somebody doesn't like that idea, and we are guilty of having a copying machine here, that's one more piece of evidence to show that we are a terrorist organization.
But with that being said, wouldn't we be going right back down the road through McCarthyism? Because one of the founding principles during that was, even if they were communist, the Constitution and the forefathers of this country established that you as an individual or a group of individuals have a right to believe, practice, speech in any form or fashion, as long as that speech didn't create anarchy or violence. Nothing here creates any of that.
It's liberty of conscience.
Somebody might think that across from ABC and the people stop down and honk their horns and the motorcycles rip by, because you create a very, very dangerous situation when you put 300 protesters out there.
Yeah, go ahead,
But you know,
Myra. Yeah,
I rest my case.
Myra's next.
But you're talking about people in charge of our state government and our federal government who do not believe in the Constitution. And that's the #1 document for our country.
I think they believe in it as long as it goes to their perception and how they want it to play out. they'll utilize it
But there's
for what they
actual
want.
specific things that they're saying aren't true, and they can't, we won't follow that.
But they're in their position based on the fact that the Constitution established that we as people can vote our representatives. So if your representatives are voicing contrary to what the people want, that's why we vote, starting local and going all up the lane, saying, you're not representing me, you're representing counter to my beliefs. And that's why we have to vote.
I've voted since I was 18 years old. There happened to be an election that year, and I voted since then, every single election. Do I get all the candidates I want? Absolutely not, especially since moving to Florida. 20 years now.
Remember, gerrymandering is a system by which the politicians choose their voters, not the
Yes,
voters choosing
exactly.
their politicians.
Yep.
Mark, again.
You know, we don't fit the category of terrorist and all that other stuff. But because of the regime and I say that
Absolutely.
Yes, say it.
as a,
So do I.
in power, can just say you are, and that's fact, even though it's not reality. Then they get away with it because they're getting away with it every day now. So it doesn't matter. We are a peaceful group here, but they could call us terrorists, and they could actually come and arrest us, although it wouldn't last. But just because they said it.
Texas, just in terms of just because they said it, the Texas voucher system now, the people who run that have designated 25 Islamic schools ineligible to receive voucher money
Yep.
because they have relationships with terrorist organizations. Probably some organizations similar to this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what this is, exactly.
And so it's not what if, it's happening
Yeah.
right
It's happening.
now.
Yeah.
Maybe
Wait
it's
till-
a little easier to make it happen with Muslims. But the meaning of what's happening and the end result is really the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, didn't DeSantis declare some group here, but he has lost in court?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
The
But that's
courts
it.
are slow, though. I need them to be fast.
And
Faster, faster.
we found the right court, but
Yeah.
usually we're facing in court judges appointed by DeSantis himself or some other right-wing Republican. Mark?
Well, I think we get caught up on the semantics of labels, which we're seeing every day in the news. And I'll ask you to ponder this scenario. January 6th, were they patriots or were they terrorists? It's all in how you view and where you were or how you see. So we see that in our everyday life of labeling, putting names on things and people instead of just understanding and supporting the different views that people have. So,
Well, views are one
are
thing,
they patriot?
but there's lots.
Half the country thinks that they were all pardoned because they were patriots. The other half saw them as terrorists because they criminals and they broke numerous laws.
Well, they were pardoned because a terrorist was in charge.
Right.
But in that viewpoint, you have people, they want to accept the definition that you've given them.
That's exactly right.
But the fact of the matter, before you are pardoned, what is the number one thing you have to do to get the pardon?
Admit
Kiss
guilt.
his ass.
Admit guilt.
Admit guilt. That means every person that participated was brought to trial and prosecuted and convicted to get a pardon, had to admit under oath before a judge, yes, I was an insurrectionist and I committed a criminal offense.
That's in regard to
If they were charged.
the federal environment
To
also?
accept a pardon.
To get a pardon.
A presidential pardon
To get a pardon,
is subject to someone saying, admitting their guilt?
you have to admit you're
I didn't
guilty.
know there were any restraints on it.
No. Well, because the standard for pardon of any type is you're being pardoned for something you've been convicted of doing.
Sure.
I'm coming
You
back
can't
next
be
week.
pardoned for
You can't
something
be
you didn't
forgiven for
do.
something
I
you
learned
did.
something today.
Yeah.
It's different from commutation of sentence, by the way.
Right.
Which does not require admission of guilt, as I understand it.
And there was no commutations
Yeah, I
of
think
sentence.
this was part of it.
There were
Mark, back to your point,
presidential
though,
pardons.
my favorite part of going back and reviewing day of is watching the Republicans
Spin.
announce what had happened and say, this is a bridge too far and all that, and then whoop,
Oh, yeah.
here they are now.
Yeah, that's.
So they knew
Well,
what it
thank God
was,
we have
and it hasn't
videotape.
changed, that's exactly
Yes.
right.
That,
We have the
and,
evidence.
and what did Marco Rubio recently say was, politics is a slippery slope and things change and you have to ride with those changes. Because little Marco had been blistered by the now president, and recently a reporter had asked him, morally, how can you accept what this individual said? And he says you need to look past and tolerate those things that are done in the past.
What a Christian.
Yeah.
Forgiveness
Okay.
is
Yeah.
awful mighty.
Yeah.
Do you ever look at his face when some of these things are
Oh,
being said?
Yeah, right.
It's great.
Yeah.
He's
It's like,
standing behind Trump.
it's like he's just, you know, he doesn't, you know his little whatever bit of integrity he has left in there is like just spinning.
Shrinking.
Yes.
We went to law
Yep.
school. He went to law
Yeah.
school in
Yeah,
Yale.
yeah, that's
He
right.
studied
where
ethics.
did Pam Bondi go to
You
law
know,
school? But
and
there's
that's
lots of people went to law
what's
school. Anyway.
Uh,
Let's turn to Kurt for just a moment and talk about the Constitution. Then we'll return to legislation, particularly, we'll talk about the Blue Ribbon projects, and then in the U.S. Congress, House Bill 175, which you all love. Go ahead, Kurt.
So we're at Amendment 21. Anybody know what that is?
Is that the repeal?
Pardon me? I heard the word.
Repeal of the 18th? Or,
Yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
exactly, right.
Yeah.
So it shows that having made a mistake,
Open book.
we can correct it, right? And thinking about how fast that went down. It was only 12 years. Actually, it was 13 years. By the time it was ratified, it was 14, but the momentum had swung terribly, and of course, the 21st Amendment was ratified December 5th, 1933. But anyway, that's where we're at here. We're at the,
So the wonderful part about the Constitution is that it can be changed and can be amended
can be
and
changed.
so
I
on.
think it's a
with,
great example.
Yeah, a mistake was made, no question, as was the determination that black people are 5/8 of,
The 3/5 rule.
or 3/5, whatever it is. Our state legislature is also considering something called the Blue Ribbon Project. You could take 15,000 acres and declare them blue ribbon, and therefore you can bypass all the local control about building and build as many houses as you'd like and so on. Should we empower our local government to make decisions as to how many houses should be built and how they should be built? And
Wait, what is, so that's for city ordinance, or is that for state?
It would
It's a
override
s-
city
yeah.
ordinance.
And county
They would say,
ordinance.
this is a,
So
this
the state
area,
can come in.
this area does not have to abide by your local regulations.
On a different
Wow.
venue, just to give you an example of what you're talking about, where is the best place for someone to make a decision about whether a child should use a bathroom in a school?
Local.
One would think the teacher could make that kind of decision. Those decisions are made in Tallahassee. Okay? And the decision about how many houses can be built. The school boards used to complain mightily about the fact that they have control over virtually nothing because everything's controlled from Tallahassee. Now we're hearing it from county commissions and city councils as well, that Tallahassee, this is the effort that doesn't go anyplace, home rule that we should be able to decide whether or not supermarkets use plastic bags or whether plastic straws, but we don't get to decide that. That's already been decided in Tallahassee for us.
Yeah, I
So-
have a quick question about the development. I was under the impression that the state has a growth plan, and then every county has to write their own plan that is compliant with that plan.
Yeah.
How does that impact that? Because the local we already have a growth plan written
Yeah.
and submitted to Tallahassee and accepted. I'm sure that can change, but it's always got to be aligned with the state one. So,
But if the county presents a plan, or even if 10 years later they look back and say the county's plan is too restrictive, then the legislators, who are beholden to the builders and development, the developers,
The
who give,
lobbyists.
the lobbyists and so on, who would give campaign contributions, can decide, no, we're going to make that a blue ribbon area. By the way, there are 2 areas already designated in St. Johns County. And in St. Johns County, there's a much more organized movement against this particular bill, Senate Bill 354. But we can be overruled. And again, the decision is not made here, but it is made in Tallahassee. And that's,
So-
again, the government's not restrained, we're restrained. The government is free to do whatever the hell it wants to. Go, 1 and 2, go, Mark, go.
Well, you know, the planning board for the city of Palm Coast, okay, I sit on that. And most of the people on there are really concerned about overdevelopment for a change. The planning board is not in the pocket of developers at this moment. However, there are 12 items that the state put out there that if the developer doesn't violate any of those 12, we can't deny them, whether we want to or not.
Yep, so there's,
But we do have the land development code, which we try to go by to make sure that it's not in violation of our own land development code. However, irregardless of our land development code, if they meet those 12 items, as a planning board, we can't say no. We can say no, but it'll get overturned. Because the current city council is so corrupt that they've overridden us twice recently, you know, in the last 6 months.
I understood that they didn't pay enough attention to know what you were doing to override it, but because that the committees and the advisory committees are just nobody really pays
It's like,
any
why
attention.
even bother joining one
Why,
of those committees?
why have a
if they're not
planning
gonna
board,
listen?
city planning board that fine comb, tooth with fine comb, whatever the expression is, go through the land development code and make sure that it meets or doesn't meet our land development code, which is authorized and signed off by the city council and everybody else. If they're gonna not pay attention to it and say, oh, well, we don't care about that.
The answer to your question is clear.
Yeah.
It creates the illusion of democracy.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
the illusion
We have
of
a
democracy.
illusion.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Okay,
how
good.
is that blue ribbon any different than the eminent domain that already exists? Like, if I can come in and say, well, this isn't just for the good of me, this is for the good of the country or the state or the county. So I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to take your property. I'm not gonna take it. I'll give you fair market value for it.
But isn't it only the government that can do eminent domain? Whereas now they want to let builders basically
yeah.
have.
That's what this
Developers
is
have the
doing.
same rights.
So the developer.
And they actually already
Yeah.
own the land.
Yeah.
They just want to do what they want to do.
So
That's it.
who controls eminent domain? Is that only state or is it county also?
I think city could probably do it
City
too.
do it, city can do it too. But it
Every
has,
government entity.
it's a,
has
a,
Depends on
much,
what it
yeah.
is.
It's a much more complicated legal path.
That's
Because
what.
it can
So
be
this gets
challenged
you
and so
around
forth.
it.
This is the state says, this is blue ribbon.
So this is the way. This would be the end run around eminent domain that you
Exactly.
could
Yeah.
fight.
Exactly.
This you won't be able to
Right,
fight.
this we will not be able to fight.
Well, this is kind of like what's happening down in the east section.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with
Go
one
ahead and
entrance.
explain what's going on in the east section.
Well, yeah, you know, where the builder has bought that land, what, 30 years ago or whatever.
2008.
And then they never built those homes down there, and they left it empty, 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 empty. And then they came back and said, hey, we're gonna build these homes. Okay, fine. It was signed off on 1 million years ago, and then they said, no, 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 we wanna like put twice as many homes in there. And the city council said no. Then the city council came back and said yes.
And why was that?
And now they're gonna do it, and then the, whatever her name is on the city council, what, took all those bribes
Papier.
from the
From that
developers?
company.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's like, well, wait a minute, now, you know, so the city council is allowing them to go against it, and the residents down there, I know people who live in the east section, they're like, oh, no, 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 no. This is gonna, it's gonna lower their values, because the east section, their values are pretty high.
Happening in Flagler
But-
Beach, John Anderson Highway.
Yeah.
But can't the citizens of that community, even if their representatives won't represent for them, can't the citizens bring a lawsuit saying, okay, we're not going to restrict you from building what you said you were going to build and your intent? We'll allow that, but we're not going to let you now come back and double down on what you
Well,
want.
it's happening.
That's
They're
what
gonna
they're
build
doing
it.
But I mean,
Yeah.
doesn't the citizens have standing
Well,
to
they
fight
all,
that?
the city, a bunch
Okay,
of
that's
them.
very,
yeah.
that's very hard to prove.
They have
because
standing, they
that's
can
what-
fight it, but they don't have the
Yeah.
kind of money that the builders
Yeah.
have.
That's
that
what
the
we- You know
builders
what's really
have
sad?
To hire fancy
What's really
lawyers to
sad?
go and.
You know, they got 58 homes. They were authorized to build 58 homes. You know how they got 58? The city cooperated with the builder and swapped some of the land.
Oh, they did the land swap.
They did a
Yeah,
land swap so they
Yeah.
could build 58, because the land they owned, they couldn't build 58. So the city was nice enough to work with them so they could build 58 that matched the same size lots with the surrounding homes around it.
So what do they want
So
to build now?
Well, so they got approval. So now they're shrinking the size of the lot, put smaller homes, and put 71 in there.
Holy cow.
Yeah, they're going down to like 6,000.
And aren't they supposed to?
And the planning board shot it down, 7 to
Also
0.
giving.
No,
like, either
but
low
because
interest or.
one of the council members took money from them, and well, there's 2 of them actually.
Teachers, I'm not sure.
District 2 and District 4, whoever they may be, we all know, took money from the same company that's building that, each for their own separate campaign. Voted yes for the builder to have his way.
What did Watergate's deep
That's a
throat?
fact.
What did Watergate's deep throat tell us all?
Follow the money.
Follow the money.
Go ahead.
Well, I have a question that I live in the E section.
Uh-huh.
E section has one way in,
Yeah.
one way out.
Yeah.
And they're gonna put like 71, I
71
think it is.
homes.
Yeah.
And so that's gonna probably be at least 100 more cars going in and out
Oh,
of that
absolutely.
one exit.
Yep.
Is there any way to like induce that company to figure out some way to?
Well,
Make
originally,
another-
now here's a lie they did to the city council. Okay,
Allegedly.
when they presented that case to us, they had this one man that had 2 entrances to the 58 homes. I personally, on tape, asked them, well, what about this 58? And they said, no, that's not the right one, the right diagram. That was just a fake one. I said, well, because we said, that's nice that you have 2 entrances. They said, no, we only have 1 for the 58. Oh, do you have a diagram for that one? No, it's not available. They never made one for the 58 because they never planned on doing 58. They planned on doing 71.
All right, so let me.
You mean
And so when they
Local
represented
politicians
it
were
to the city
dishonest?
council, they
You're
still
kidding.
used the same fake diagram.
I'm not familiar with how city planning works, but I have a question. Don't you have to have an evacuation plan in place for every community that you have in a city or town?
sense.
Well-
So if you do, wouldn't that overload or have to change the requirements for the evacuation of that area in case of a hurricane or a
Maybe they'll just
national
widen the
emergency?
road.
Fire? There was a fire.
Yeah.
Do a little
in, what,
eminent
98
domain,
or something?
I think that's what they're
That-
probably gonna
in
do.
Yeah,
this-
but that,
in this
I don't
case-
think anything
Anderson,
supersedes
we've got
the
thousands.
safety of the people in the community, does
Yeah,
it?
but, yeah, money supersedes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm in the perfect world. My apologies.
Yeah.
You know, because there was talk about extending that road all the way down to SR 100. But that's not happening.
But that's Benel.
Oh, yeah, I think it
That
is
road would
at
come out
that
of
point.
Canal, not
Yeah.
Palm Coast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that they,
But
That's-
that's
that's already a
not,
mess.
that's not in the plans.
yeah.
Okay.
So, at any rate.
Money talks.
Money
That's
talks, builders and developers have their way. And we keep electing realtors and developers to
Well, and
public
now
office.
she wants to be the county commissioner?
Yeah, exactly. And so
Come on, you know?
You have to, and somebody here said they would watch to see if Pontieri gives that money back.
She can't.
Who's
It's
running against her
contribution. She
anyway?
can't just give it back.
I thought she
You
said
sure?
she
I-
did or was going to.
Well,
Give
she's,
contributions
she
back.
said that, but she's not giving it back.
You-
You know, you just can't give it back.
Why can't you just give it
There-
back?
there- I forget, Ray Stevens
In Virginia, you
explained it to
could.
me.
What she's done.
But there's a process that, and she's not gonna give it back.
Yeah, the last thing I read said she took it from 2 developers.
There's five $1,000, and it all goes back to ICI. Because all those five were companies within the same building that belongs to ICI.
I'm sure that's not
That's
suspicious.
ancient history.
Yeah, well,
I'm
what's
sure
in
that's not
history? Paying off
suspicious.
politicians? I see.
Yes.
Come on,
That's
we're
not
not
so ancient.
casting aspersion on developers, are we? We wouldn't do that.
But we didn't even talk about the fact that the reason it got passed through the second reading was that suddenly they're donating the land. And suddenly it's low-income housing, it's, affordable housing that's only gonna be made available to cops and firefighters and teachers
Right,
and
yeah.
people who are on the lower end
So I
of the
didn't know
salary
those
spectrum.
lower end people could afford $400,000.
Well, no,
But
they're
they
bringing it
weren't- they're
down to
breaking it
lower
down.
than
No, they're
not.
that. That's what they
That's what
say.
they
Well, that they say.
That was the whole point
yeah.
of
What do you,
this
what do you
donating the
mean?
land.
We're in the golden
Crazy.
age now. Can't
That's right.
everybody here afford a $400,000 home?
Yeah.
Feeling the gold.
Well,
Especially when there's so many people who
Well,
can't find
the-
jobs.
Oh, ooh.
and in,
You know, somebody said, well, let's have it in writing, but no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
No,
nobody bothered to say that.
yeah, they're not putting it in writing.
yeah.
Are there any Democrats on the county commission?
In,
No.
you mean in Flagler?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some county, not
Yeah.
all either.
Florida.
Yeah.
Is there anybody running against her?
Oh,
Is
there's
she
a,
unopposed?
well,
Should-
Ray,
Another Republican's running against her.
Yeah, but no
but now
Democrats.
Ray, what's his name?
Ray, yeah,
Feldman?
Ray comes here.
Ray Royce.
Ray Royce, yeah.
Raymond
Royce.
Royce.
Raymond
Is running
He's
for-
an independent.
He's
Running for her
independent.
seat on the city
He's
council,
running
but not,
against-
she's running on the county commission.
Yeah, I think it's Royce.
But it is
He's
important,
usually here. I
this
don't know.
conversation is amazing in two ways. One, we all have an opinion. Two, we all have the ability to attend or watch these meetings on YouTube, of which I watch Mr. Stansel on his board. It's available. You have 10 minutes of your time. Yesterday's meeting,
So
or
you don't have-
Tuesday's meeting, yesterday's meeting, was 6 hours
Not
long.
at the same time.
For you to
I'm not awake
understand
at 9 o'clock.
the process and to be able to speak to it. Participation is what matters. And I have a question for a board member. I see the lawyer that fought the ICI was also at the concrete, whatever his name is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
tall, dark-haired fellow. And he was telling the board what their goal and responsibility was, and the young kid that represents the city for development, Hastings or Haster, was echoing what this guy was telling the board.
Yeah.
So the whole perception in my mind of the board in which you sit on is to do their best to determine, ask questions, and make a decision of value. And our own city employees, it appears, are pushing these developments
Yes.
based
Yes, right,
on
exactly.
Hanson.
this
Hanson.
based on the direction that they're getting from our city council. And that's a question I have posed directly to the council, but they never respond because they don't ever
they don't have
respond
to.
for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But the perception, the view, the things that we see, I believe are something we can trust with our own eyes, and we all need to participate. Get on a board. There's vacant seats
They're not
right
doing
now on multiple boards that you can sign up for and volunteer, like the new Parks and Rec board that they're pushing together. So it feels like to me, though, that the purpose of the board that you sit on has minimal effect, and with SB 180 and a lot of these newer laws, it's become less and less
Right now,
effective
we
anyway.
don't have hardly any power,
Exactly.
We got-
and we should.
I would dispute the word hardly, but we don't have any power.
Well, but visibility
In the
matters,
face of it.
especially in
Yeah,
election
yeah,
time.
Yeah.
And I've heard many times the action of the vice mayor in her defense of why she voted for it to try to get lower income, more affordable homes is something that she's always tried.
Well, that's not.
But she could have tabled it, which is what the mayor asked for, which is what I've heard over and over again. There was
Well-
no need to move it forward with all of this new
Well, if
information.
she was willing to look for affordable housing, she wouldn't have been opposed to Senator Shank's presentation
Oh,
to
which she's
try to
done.
find
Right.
more affordable housing.
Right. Well, the problem, the misnomer of if you as a city employee are paid what is the standard rate for all counties, and you can't afford to live in the city in which you work in, I'm sorry. That's a situation that occurs throughout this entire
Country.
Country.
I was military active duty. I could never afford to live in near the base that I lived in.
Couldn't afford San Diego?
No. And if you look, basically, if you look at the numbers, and I had a great conversation
Chicago teachers.
with candidate Ray Stevens about this very thing on Monday. We pay on average $50,000 to $60,000 a year for our employees, whether they're fire, police, or starting wages. That gives you a top out of about $225,000 of a amount of house you can buy. There are no houses
For $225,000.
in Palm Coast at $225,000, and there never will be. If there are, those of us that own houses are going to be very upset that most of the investment, your hard-earned life, what do they call it, generational wealth, is what we all moved here, is gone. So, what is the problem they're trying to fix? Do we as taxpayers willing to double our millage rates so that fire and police and teachers can be paid $100,000, $120,000 a year so they can afford to live here? Because that's the answer. And by the way, every town I've ever been in that did that and gave a raise to those citizens, what do you think happened to the house prices?
Went up.
Why?
Because they got more
Because
money.
they could.
Yeah.
They can get
Exactly.
more money.
Right? So it's that on a hamster wheel running.
I thought
So-
maybe they would have gone down because people are shopping for houses, look to see what taxes are associated with that neighborhood.
Well, if you can qualify for more, you're going to look for more. So
So,
if you can look for more, you're going to find it.
Mark, so how does it work if the state legislature decides we're gonna be a state with no property tax? Where does the money come to pay the fire department, the police department, and the teachers?
So
the
to
state.
qualify,
Exempted all benevolent states.
hold on, every bill that has been put forward has property taxes addressing those
Yeah.
necessary support.
Right.
Police, fire,
Emergency.
teachers, those will not be touched. That's what even
But where does the money
DeSantis.
come from?
Yeah, yeah.
Huh?
Because the school
The
part of the
other-
taxes doesn't go away.
Yeah.
No,
They're
you will
not
still
touching
be
that.
property taxed for school, teachers, support, property tax for fire, property tax for police.
Okay.
No presentation that I've been able to find or have heard or talked to had those elements not being supported.
So what would they be
But for
getting
the
rid of?
city of Palm Coast, we're talking 60 to 70 million dollars of lost revenue through property taxes to support the city.
So let's think about the gas tax. So gas that's approaching $4 now
Would go to.
would have to be, I don't know. Because
but-
they have to repair the roads. Do we not want
Right.
them to repair the roads?
That's what I'm saying. Where's the?
You're gonna pay
Sales
it
tax.
one way or
So
another.
That's what they're
You
saying.
think that's
So
so?
when we
Their
go
to
their
the
shift
roads,
is
it's
the
gonna cost
sales
us
tax.
9
Yeah,
to
they could
12%
right now there's a
sales.
sales tax.
So you're gonna shift it to the poorer people.
That's what,
Yeah,
that's what they're
exactly.
gonna do.
It's a
That's
very
exactly
regressive,
Very
a regressive
It's the
tax.
worst kind of
I
tax to
own my
go on.
Yeah.
house, I don't pay a mortgage, but I pay everything else.
But
It's
don't they,
Republicans' favorite tax.
but
Yeah.
don't they think that's
I can't
that
own
is
my
a
house, I'm
major
sorry.
factor when a person retires, when they decide where they're going to retire to.
Yep.
I mean, half of the attraction to coming to Florida was its tax base. So you're now getting ready to change that midstream.
Yeah, we get it,
Yeah.
I think we're starting to realize that it wasn't realistic.
Really? Wow, Mickey Mouse
Well-
just jumped up out of the grave.
May I
So
just
Ken,
ask
to
a
answer,
question about
to answer your question,
Sue, you're best.
people on the higher end that live on the canals, that have their $7-8 million homes paid for, a lot of them are seasonal anyway. When they look at and the numbers bear this out, the amount of sales, the amount of property tax that they pay today, vice even a 15% sales tax, would be half what their property tax would be over their expenditures and their value, like Kurt said, a regressive tax. Because we all know somebody making $20 an hour pays the same fuel fee as a
Right.
guy
Making
who's
it.
worth millions of dollars.
Right.
So, to those people,
So-
which are the people they're hoping that will probably vote for this,
Right, but
similar on the ballot in
I
November.
thought you had to be
So-
a resident here, that it isn't
Homestead.
going to, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not gonna, but it's not gonna benefit them if they don't live here. Many of them,
Right,
this
the
is a
homestead, they
seasonal
have to
home.
be.
But if you're
yeah, they have to
seasonal,
be
you get to
homesteaders.
choose
You get to
what
choose your
residence you
resident,
pick.
yeah.
You do, but
And
you
which
know where
one
you're
would you-
coming from.
which one would you-
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
There's no other state that compares to Florida
May
as
I-
far as your
Sue, let's
homestead.
finish out, then we need to move on.
may I ask
Okay.
what, so this is gonna shift the burden, the tax burden onto tourists too?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so is that not gonna have a trickle-down effect to all of the businesses that are in tourism,
Yes.
recreation, so on and so forth?
Yeah.
And how long is it gonna take for the country and the world to understand that, Florida has done this and now they're gonna be paying to support our infrastructure, right? The Canadians are not happy with America right now, haven't they stopped
Nobody
coming
is.
in large numbers?
There's
So
nobody
what
happy
is
with
it
America
going,
right now.
if tourism is our number one industry, which it is,
Yep.
what is that going to do to the whole economy of the state?
Yes, there is a
When that
limit to what
grinds-
even
yeah.
When that
tourists are
grinds
willing
to
to
a
pay.
halt.
Not
But
a
Sue,
good,
not
but,
in
yeah.
Flagler
But
County.
they're more interested in,
Well,
yeah,
Flagler
but-
County
Tourism
doesn't have that
is
much
not-
tourism.
yeah.
The driver
that's
of
right, this
funds
is
in
low.
Flagler County,
Yeah.
because people
No,
live
but
in.
this is a state thing. Isn't DeSantis
Yeah.
doing this?
Yeah, but
It's
we're
the whole
talking
state.
about how it affects the city of Palm Coast.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm talking
Yeah.
I know.
just
Different matter.
the state of Florida and just.
If we could move on for a moment, because I'm eager to hear from you. When you're all very young, you were in high school just yesterday, around the lunch table in high school, and even in junior high, middle school, what did you talk to your friends about?
Guys.
No, boys. Yeah.
Okay.
Girls.
What-
Some
what-
teacher,
Girls?
yeah,
Cars,
class, or
Girls'
Guys.
cars.
Okay.
Girls.
For us, it was about boys.
There's a bill being considered in the U.S. Congress now. But by the way, the previous were our state bills. Who represents us in Tallahassee?
Leaks
Okay,
and,
you need to know Tom Leaks
Tom
represents
Leaks.
us. By the way, when Tom Leaks first entered the legislature, he entered in the House of Representatives. He had a net worth of $500,000. Today, he's a senator in Tallahassee. He has a net worth of over $8 million. Okay,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
he's in the insurance business. And who represents us? It's good business. Huh?
Why do
Who
you
represents
want
us in the
to-
Florida House of Representatives? Sam Greco.
Oh,
Okay,
Son of-
attorney, son of Tijuana Flats CEO and major
Yes.
stockholder. Very wealthy, doesn't get, by the way, he didn't even campaign much. You don't know his name because he didn't campaign against Adam Morley, and, because he didn't have to, and nobody knows much about him, but you need to know that his name will appear on the ballot in November and decide whether or not, and he's being run by, and we had here Suzanne Pavel from St. Johns County. You need to ask the right questions and know that. So let's go back. The U.S. House of Representatives is considering, what's the bill? I get my 2681, House Bill 2681 is entitled "The Sexualization of Children and Students in Our Public Schools." And so, by the way, how many of you, you're all consenting adults, how many of you, how many of you have been sexualized?
In school?
No, I don't think, well, okay, this is word about school.
In my dreams.
Yeah. What does sexualized mean? I think this is their
I'm trying to
flailing.
figure out what the bill is.
What?
Yeah.
Okay,
What
the bill
does it
ultimately,
say?
the bill ultimately, and is to prohibit federal funds from being used to provide or promote sexually oriented materials to children under the age of 18. In the end, it's a book ban.
That's what that is.
And we know that. How do you get kids to read books?
Tell them you can't.
Ban it.
Yeah, can they teach abstinence? I'm sure they're big fans of that.
They're big fans of abstinence. By the way,
Yeah, we had sex ed, they taught you what was gonna happen to you, and they taught you what you shouldn't do.
But at what age?
We were
We were
in eighth
fourth grade. Well,
Eighth
when-
grade.
Fourth grade.
Well, it was because
Well, by
that's
the
when-
way,
that's
so-
when girls.
Yeah.
We don't got that?
Yeah.
You
Okay.
have to
Wow.
stay young with the girls.
Yeah.
Seventh
have
class
to.
was
Beginning of fourth
They called it
I was
health.
in school.
I think the class was called health.
It's
Yeah.
true.
The girls
but it
would
was-
go out. and
They'd
the
separate
boys
the
would go
boys
out.
I don't know how they
and
cut
girls
that.
and
Boys
one
would see
other.
the
The
beard
fourth-
growing,
in fourth-
and the girls
fourth
would get
grade,
all of that
The
talk,
girls
you
were
know.
all little adults and the boys were all maniacs. Right?
You would know,
Right?
you taught me.
And middle schools are populated by students who are actually hormones with legs. And that's.
So Meryl, this bill
So the
is
question, yeah,
state level?
no, federal,
There's a
U.S. House
federal-
of,
if
U.S.
this-
House of Representatives.
So
So it's a-
if this bill were to become
I took my
law,
course with all that kind
then it would supersede and force every state guideline
Yes,
to follow
to
that.
comply.
Which would then be pushed all the way down to Flagler County
That's correct.
schools.
Except,
Based on
yeah.
federal law.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually,
Much like Nickelback.
I have a list of organizations that disagree. It would supersede the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Well, there we go.
Back the curtain. Okay? And that book banning doesn't work. But so where did you learn more? In those sex education classes or around the lunch table?
The
in
Oh,
your
the lunch
lunchroom?
table was shared.
Okay.
We
Siblings.
had one more piece of information than the next one.
And we all know this is now the new lunch table.
Yeah. So that's a,
A lot of that
Kurt, go ahead,
learning
characterization.
around the lunch
Jump in.
table was exaggeration.
At the University of New Hampshire in 1969, they offered a sex education class. I mean, to everybody in school.
We had a
Half the
class-
school signed up for the course.
Of course.
It was just huge.
yeah.
And the stuff they taught, our jaws we were never taught anything like that.
They
You know?
did that at Maryland, there was a class you could take. And I took it because it was mandatory.
Yeah.
I walked out of a couple of the videos they were showing because it was so disgusting. But, you know, we were grown-up adults. We were all over 18 or we wouldn't have been, well, some people were extra smart, but, you know, normal people start college at 18. And we needed to hear that stuff, even though, as I said, I walked out of the class of 500 people in this auditorium, made a big production because of something they were showing was totally disgusting.
Disgusting to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me personally.
So ultimately, it's a way to ban books.
Yes.
And banning books, there are already a significant list of books that are banned in Flagler County schools. Like Mark, you're point. And there are organizations, if you're not familiar with PEN America or the Freedom to Read Foundation or so on, you need to become aware of that. We can talk more about that in the future. But banning books is counter to the First Amendment.
So are we
and to
indeed
freedom.
going back to
And
our
doesn't
roots
stop
and
anything. Again, you don't learn from, they learn around on the table that you get at lunch, I would maintain. What were you going to say, Sue? Sue and then Kirk. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we're going back to our Puritan roots, right?
Yeah, yep. And that's, by the way, that's where they want to take it. I would argue that this is an expression of Christian nationalism and the idea to take out good public and educational policy and insert in its place church doctrine.
There was no book at that time for our course.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
said that.
Yeah.
There was no book on sex education for
Yeah.
them.
But-
And this is 69.
But we don't need to worry about any of those bills because our president said, I'm not signing any bills
Until he
And-
does the Save Act.
until it's SAVE Act, which is never
Which
going to
does not ever
pass.
pass.
So we don't need to worry about
And
it.
we can
And
trust
once
what
again,
he
yeah,
says.
why
We
would
should all applaud what he
All the
said.
time.
Why would we listen to what he has to say? I really,
Makes
yeah, I
me
mean,
wanna trust.
I have to listen to
Usually.
the news conference because of what the president's going to say. And the president, by the way, the war will be over. He said the war will be
No,
over in 2
there's
weeks
no-
last
Yeah.
week, and he said the
Wait a
war,
minute.
and in 10 days it's going to say the war will be over in 2 weeks, and all that.
Well, yes,
This is
Why,
our time.
why bother?
yesterday
Yeah.
he said the war's over when he says that he's won the war.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm confused.
Yeah.
We're not in a war.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
We're on
Yes, we are.
a cruise.
Yeah.
What is that? Excursion.
Yes.
We're on an excursion.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, a
Those are-
conflict.
Excuse me.
Most
But-
of my
but,
excursions
that's-
have been a whole lot more
the
fun.
term was incursion.
We're
Right.
incursion.
Somewhere along the line, somebody said excursion.
So
And we're all laughing at
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I think they meant incursion.
That's excursion. That's because you go there
Wait
on
a
the
minute.
carnival cruise line and take an excursion.
But incursion would be an aggressive act by a foreign or any object on another object.
Yeah,
Not lawful.
yeah. But no,
No.
it does nothing
No,
about
no,
this
there's
is
nothing lawful about
Well,
it.
it was mentioned again. If you want to find the spine of Lindsey Graham, for example, you have to disinter John McCain. Okay? Dig him up, and Lindsey Graham's spine is right, and the spine of Marco Rubio, and so many of them. They have no spine, and Congress
What
is.
is wrong with Lindsey Graham?
I apologize.
He's part of the most constipated Congress we've ever had.
I apologize for
It's
the
jammed up and
misunderstanding.
stopped.
But there's one thing you
There are
guys,
plenty of good people.
I want you to
That's
consider.
right.
Israel
Yeah.
went to war with Hamas, devastated the Gaza to where there's not a single standing building hardly.
Okay.
But Hamas never and has never and will never surrender. So if you believe, if any of you believe that the country of Iran of 90 million people is ever going to stop their actions, no matter what we do militarily, even if they put boots on the ground, history has a big book that you can look at to show that it never has succeeded. That is factual historical documentation of the futility of what it is we're attempting to do, of which nobody really knows.
Well, you'll agree with me, the worst thing that we could ever do is put boots on the ground in Iran.
You don't think they're
Vietnam, baby.
You don't think
That's
they're already-
Vietnam.
I think
All
this
over.
Afghanistan.
This would be a
Iraq.
You name it.
Way worse. than
Worse.
Vietnam.
Yeah.
Worse.
But the rest
Vietnam
is
No
was
jungle.
small.
All of, yeah, this is 90 million people.
Mark, you don't think right now that there aren't American
influence.
intelligence personnel in Iran?
You just said intelligence, that's a mistake.
The
Yeah.
point I'm making is that
Military intelligence is an oxymoron anyway. But
Yeah.
people that, you saw the videos of, you saw these rockets going inside buildings and doing those and being video. Those are from handheld laser guidance systems, which we used in the
paint
First
targets.
War Thank you.
Yeah.
And
You gotta
that
paint
meant
the
that
target.
there's somebody on the top of a building or in that area that is shining a laser-sighted device. Think about the videos that showed all of the drones that were under cover, under buildings, and that we saw the video of it coming in. So,
Go ahead, Myra.
And then the thing that's really got me spinned up is what Putin's doing, giving our intelligence and positions to the Iranians and prepping himself for World War III. Does he not understand what happens when you have so many? He's already bankrupt, basically. He's just getting stuff from everybody else. Does he not understand what happens when you have too many fronts on a war?
And what's the
It's
relationship
happened
between
before.
and the relationship between Putin and Trump?
Well,
Yes.
you're asking
Absolutely.
you're asking
Yeah.
the wrong person the right questions, because my belief, Trump's dictating this war with no concept of what you need to do to have a war.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
He's not listening to the generals, because, as Mark will tell you, there has never been a war contact where you've won just through air superiority.
Right.
Oh,
There is no way you
Never.
can conduct a war without putting boots on the ground.
Exactly.
that's
You,
right.
if you, and
It's an excursion.
it's excursion. The other side of that, even if his concept of regime change was a reality, or he actually thought of that, what was going to be the regime change if he did not have it in place when he took out the regime that was there? Because foreign countries, when you take out the biggest, baddest guy, there's another bad guy that's ready to step right in.
Just like his son.
Right.
Yeah,
Just like his son.
Put
That's
the
why
son in.
Eric will be the next president,
Evil
right?
Yeah, oh
abhors
gosh.
a vacuum. Somebody else will come back in. And he keeps wanting the people of Iran to step up and fight these people. If the people of Iran could have done that, they would have done it a while back.
That demonstration they were having, and they killed, what, 20 million people or something?
yeah.
Come on.
Right.
They
Yeah.
can't, they were fighting. They were trying. They were doing what we're doing on No King's Day and on the other things we're doing.
March 28th, remember
Yeah,
to say
But
March
they got
28th.
murdered.
Regime, I've said this before. We've seen this play out. That was the Bay of Pigs. We were affecting regime change. But
do that a
we
lot.
didn't, because we got caught doing something we shouldn't have been doing, and they said, no, we're out.
But ultimately, we have unified all the factions in Iran, and they're all now unified against us. And that's what bombing campaigns do. And you can go back to the London Blitz and
Yep.
World War II and so on. You can't win anything. You only make the people stronger. Anyway, we're going to head towards winding
Trump
up.
asking the Iranian people to step up and do their regime change is no different than us trying to fight against him. We have only got the power of our elections that wait till November. Nobody is stopping that man from doing what he's doing. And because we are, in effect, helpless against what he's doing as individuals.
No, I'll disagree with that to a degree. Our courts are winning.
They are.
Our democracy is still holding because our courts.
Because mostly, but
What
not
we're
entirely.
doing, what we're doing here is affecting change, because we're letting more people know through our voices and through our actions, through our protests, that we do not like what you are doing. Therefore, when it's time to vote, we vote and move you on. Now, you may want to stay, but that's a whole nother situation, another bridge we will cross if we have to when we get to it. but all we can do is what we're doing now.
And Rachel
Talk,
Maddow
discuss,
runs some great
and let go.
segments on that where she shows that it is making a difference. Like all the cities or counties that have fought these big ice facilities and won, it's like, not here, not having it. So it does make a difference.
It makes
It's
a
slow, it's ugly.
Painful.
Every day they do
Can't
something
give
more
up.
awful for this country, more people are learning to stand, say, oh, wait a minute.
This is not.
We
More
didn't vote for
people
this.
have learning the hard way.
His own
It's
advocates are
not
coming out
us.
saying, this is not what you
who we
told
are as a
us.
country.
Yeah.
At any rate, so the test is November 3rd. But don't forget that August 18th, we also
August
have a
18th,
primary
yes.
election.
Yes.
That's Kathy's name. We will hopefully will not appear on the ballot on November 3rd, but rather August the 18th. And we have to get people out to vote. By the way, so our job is not to worry about the country, just to get rid of Randy Fine and the Republican, and then put
And
it
save
down.
our
We
school board.
have two Democratic Party hopefuls. There'll be the primary on August 18th, and it'll decide who was going to go up against, presumably Randy Fine, though that's not certain either. But in the end, we've got.
Six now.
Is that, I think so. Yeah, it's a large
Six
field.
Yeah.
Large field. Okay? He seems to me an easy target. At any rate, we will leave it there and continue to talk about these issues and more next week. Thank you for being here, and thanks Suncoast Media and Inc. LLC for turning this into a vidcast. Look forward to seeing you next Wednesday, 12:30, same time, same station. Thank you.
Saying that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.